Hello my loves! On the 27th of July we have yet another major astrological shift happening to us. I feel like I'm saying this all of the time because 2026 is truly a very powerful year when it comes to the astrology. This time we're talking about the North Node moving into Aquarius. And if you've been feeling like the ground beneath everything has been shifting and haven't quite been able to put your finger on what it is, then chances are this video is going to start making a lot of sense of it all. The North and South Node don't get anywhere near as much airtime as a Mercury retrograde or a flashy full moon, but nevertheless they are some very powerful points in an astrological chart. Today I want to talk to you about what the nodes are, why this shift into Aquarius means so much, and how it's part of a bigger picture, and what it's likely to mean for us collectively and individually in the next year and a half. So let's get into it. So before we get into this shift into Aquarius, let's talk briefly about what the nodes actually are. The nodes are not planets. Actually, they're not a visible point in the sky at all. The North Node and the South Node are the intersection between the Moon's orbit around the Earth and the Earth's orbit around the Sun. This is where eclipses happen, which already gives you a little bit of a hint as to the significance of these points. And despite being invisible and non-physical, they are actually incredibly powerful points in the chart. Now, in Western astrology, there is a lot of ongoing debate as to what the nodes mean, and for that reason, they are often omitted. I have read so many Western astrology books where the nodes are either not mentioned at all or they're just like a little node at the end of the book. In Vedic astrology, on the other hand, they are given the same significance as any other planets in our solar system. And perhaps there's a bit of an avoidance of the subject just because astrologers are struggling a little bit to agree on the significance of the nodes. Some people call it the point of destiny or the point of karma. Others look at it as more of a general direction that life is taking, or it is often brought up in connection with past lives, where the South Node represents skills that you have mastered and perhaps become over-reliant on in a past life, whereas the North Node represents the opposite of a new direction that your soul has incarnated in this lifetime to take. In my own personal experience, the North Node is often a place where there is quite a bit of discomfort. A lot of the time when I talk to my clients, their North Node might even be in a sign that they will tell me, oh, that's the one sign I really don't get on with. I don't like that. I don't gel with it at all. It's quite uncomfortable because it's so unknown. Whereas the South Node can represent something that we've become quite accustomed and grown to, but over time it loses its effectiveness and we need to learn to stop being so reliant on those things. I'll give you a personal example. My North Node's in Pisces and my South Node is in Virgo. Virgo represents systems and being meticulous about things. And so in early life, systems and strategies worked really, really well for me. But then over time, these systems are just becoming restrictive and they're actually holding me back. And I need to learn to go more with intuition rather than plan out every single minute of my day. But it's not something that comes naturally, and it's certainly not something that is comfortable. And a lot of the time when the nodes do move into a new sign, or when there are significant personal transits to the nodes, we find that new relationships are built. People come into our lives who then turn out to play quite a significant role in them. Or other relationships come to a natural close, sometimes suddenly, sometimes gradually. So that's the nodes in general, but now let's talk into what it means that the North Node is moving into Aquarius. The nodes always move in pairs. We have a North Node and a South Node. And they always move backwards through the zodiac. So previously, or at the time of recording this video, the North Node's in Pisces, the South Node is in Virgo. Now with the North Node moving into Aquarius, the South Node moves into Leo. And we need to look at this entire axis, the Aquarius-Leo axis, to understand what kind of themes might unfold for us. And here's a take on the Leo-Aquarius axis that I don't hear many people say, but generally speaking, this axis is very much concerned with government or rule over people and over things. It's a question about who holds the power and how. And Leo's answer to that question is to have a hierarchy. Leo is the sign of the king. It believes that we should all be ruled and governed by those who have the highest skills to be in that kind of position. The most charisma, the most wisdom, the most knowledge, the most ability to shine the brightest. It's the sign of one king, one queen, one CEO, or one star at the top. Aquarius' answer to that question is the exact opposite. Aquarius doesn't believe that there is any such thing as one person who is the most qualified, but that everybody is qualified in their own unique way, and that the distribution of power is the more evolved model. So as the North Node moves from Pisces into Aquarius, we are asked to evolve our thinking in that way as well, to get away from this hierarchical structure, but also to get away from this desire to have this like one savior who's going to come and rescue us all, which is a very Piscean way of thinking, and towards a more individualistic and ultimately more democratic model. But there is a friction that comes with that, because Aquarius is also the sign of revolution. And that's because when you do have one person at the top, one person who holds all of the power, or a select few, they will very rarely give up their power willingly. So it's unlikely to be like this smooth handoff because the astrology says so. It's more likely to be a transition that is revolutionary and where there is friction every step of the way. And you might notice that the theme of power and resource redistribution isn't really anything new. This has come up multiple times this year. We see this in this outer planet cradle formation that we're experiencing in July. You may have heard it referred to as Babolt's basket, for example, as well. We see this in Chiron moving into Taurus, albeit only temporarily for a couple of months before it retrogrades back. So this is all playing together to illuminate this recurring theme that we're at the start of this year. So there are a few dates that are particularly important. The North Node moves into Aquarius and the South Node into Leo on the 27th of July 2026. And this transit moves until March the 27th, 2028, at which point the North Node will move into Capricorn and the South Node into Cancer. When we're talking about Aquarius, the one thing that immediately comes to mind is, okay, we have Pluto in Aquarius as well. And actually just a few days after the North Node moves into Aquarius, we have a full moon where the moon is going to be conjunct Pluto and the sun is going to be conjunct Jupiter. A very, very powerful and very interesting full moon. I'm not going to go into detail about that one, but I do write about it in detail in my newsletter. So you can sign up for that for free in the description bar below if you're interested to hear more about this one. And then the other two dates that immediately spring to mind are the 16th of November 2027, which is where Pluto will conjunct the North Node in Aquarius exactly. And then on the 26th of January 2028, we're going to have a solar eclipse conjunct Pluto. These are very, very powerful cosmic events because Pluto transforms everything it touches, and eclipses are already very powerful and powerful events that have this kind of fated quality to them. There's this kind of turning point in your life energy that happens a lot of the time during eclipses. A lot of people report that. Doesn't mean every eclipse is going to be a dramatic turning point, because then we'd have one after the other. But when there is one, an eclipse is usually not too far away. And so it's always interesting to look back in history at what happened the last time we had this kind of thing. The last time the North Node and Pluto met, or that there was an eclipse conjunct Pluto, was when the North Node and Pluto were in the sign of Capricorn. And that was in 2010, where we had an eclipse in January, and then the Node and Pluto met exactly in November. If you look at the news from that year, you will see quite a lot of striking parallels. But the one thing that really stands out is that that was truly the year of WikiLeaks. And Pluto dismantles things. Pluto is concerned with power, and it dismantles things where power is being held over us, especially when the nodes are involved, because the destiny, the fated situation is not that people and institutions that we don't agree to should be holding power over us. And so there was a dismantling of structures, of power structures, because Capricorn is concerned with structure, that really the effects of that we're still experiencing now. There has never really been a recovery from that loss of trust in governments as well, and in power structures. So we could be experiencing something very similar now with the nodes moving into Aquarius. And Aquarius also rules science and technology. And what's interesting is that we're already starting to see the first seeds of that. You might have already come across a lot of people saying that big tech is having its kind of big tobacco moment, with a lot of lawsuits going on, with people really pushing back against the power that technology is holding over us. And with the nodes with North Node moving into Aquarius, and Pluto there as well, we could be seeing a lot more of that. And we could be finding out things that we hadn't even realized until now in relation to that. So all of that is clearly very interesting on a collective level, but I do want to bring it back to you as well, because the collective is one thing, but we always do need to look at it from an individual level as well. So wherever Aquarius falls in your chart, this is where you are really being asked to grow over the next year and a half. And that is something that might come easily, or it might be something that you've been resisting. But either way, either the path that you are on will become reinforced, and you will gain a certain certainty that this is the right thing for you, or you might get knocked a little bit and redirected if it's not in your highest good and it's not what your soul wants to learn in this lifetime. For some of you, this will be your nodal return. Some of you may have the North Node in Aquarius natally, in which case your entire life will either get reaffirmed that you're on the right direction, or you might get knocked off course here and there and redirected. So don't resist it, is my honest advice on that, because the nodes do what they do. And especially with Pluto involved in it as well, the more we resist, the more painful the experiences tend to be. Whether if we kind of just put our hands up and go, okay, life's taking a new direction, I'm just going to go with it, things tend to work out a lot smoother and a lot easier. For some of you, you might have your North Node in Leo and your South Node in Aquarius. And for those of you, you need to be careful to watch not to fall back too much into old comfortable patterns and to try and play it small. There is going to be a lot of temptation to do that. And for you, it's a lot more of a balancing act to find the middle ground between those two polarities. It's a transit that's good to meet with curiosity, especially if you are beginning to notice that new people are coming into your life, new opportunities are opening themselves up. Doesn't mean that every shiny new thing is the right thing, but it's definitely a good idea to meet it with curiosity. And of course, there's a lot of other factors as well to consider in the natal chart, aspects, other transits. So if you are interested in really going deep into that and learning more about this node, what this nodal shift means for you personally, then you can absolutely book a one-to-one consultation with me in which we can go really, really deep and look at what this means for you individually. So to bring it all together, the North Node's shift into Aquarius on the 27th is more than just some kind of abstract astrological technicality. This is the beginning of a new chapter where we truly have to look at power distribution, at individuality, and at who gets to have a seat at the table. Watch November 2027 and January 2028 closely, because that is when this chapter is likely to experience its most dramatic and most revealing moment, both collectively and potentially even for you personally too. Thank you for being here and for experiencing these truly fascinating things that are happening in the sky with me together. And if this video helped you to make sense of something that's kind of been sitting there in the back of your awareness, do give it a thumbs up and do subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the next one.